How you doing, good people? This is the 8-Bit Animal. Okay, so today I'm talking about two titles. Two of arguably the best games in this series. Um, Two of the best running gun, arguably two of the best running gun action titles released during the 16-bit console generation. And probably two of well again two of the best titles in this console in this series of games. um these are the third and fourth home console iterations of this series, and they are pretty solid. Today's games are Contra III: The Alien Wars, and Contra Hardcore. Now, Contra 3 was released in 1992 from the good folks at Konami, and it takes place in the very distant future, like the 27th century, something like that. And these two soldiers are faced with fighting off an alien invasion from an unknown, what is perceived as an unknown threat. Now, if you played the older Contra titles, you know that it's more than likely Red Falcon and his forces. Well, Contra 3 kind of plays off of the same type of gameplay formula that we came to know and love in the older titles in the series. But it adds a few things. For one, you can wield more than one weapon, and you can switch between those two weapons at any given point. And when you collect these weapons, these power-ups, and you switch to the other weapon and you get killed in battle, then you retain the weapon that you weren't wielding at the time that you got hit. It adds a couple new weapons to your arsenal, in addition to the spread gun, machine gun, flamethrower, and laser. You also have the crash bomb gun, which fires these missiles that explode after a short flight, and the homing missile gun, which is probably one of the more useful weapons in the Contra series ever, next to the spread gun. You also have these bombs that will clear out everything on the screen. In addition to your standard side-scrolling levels, there is some minor vehicular combat. You can pick up a vehicle during the first level. You can you have a jet bike that you will use during the course of a level. In addition to, at some point, you hang on to missiles, which is probably one of the more exhilarating things that you'll do in almost any 16-bit action game that you play. It's a 8-level title, which is standard fare for back in those days. 8 levels, 8 pretty long levels with some decent difficulty. And for all intents and purposes, it's one of the better running gun action titles on the Super NES, period. And 2 years later, we're followed with the Genesis port of Contra, but it takes a little bit of a turn, and it actually takes a few cues from Contra Force, and that's Contra Hardcore. You can select one of 4 characters. Each character has their own weapons and things like that. There are multiple endings in the game, and stuff like that. But it's just standard Contra game. Side-scrolling levels. There are some levels with the view where you're running from enemies, things like that. It's really cool, really big enemies. The sound is awesome. It pushes the Genesis. Much like Contra 3 did 2 years before with the Super NES, and it proves, in my opinion, next to a game made by some former Konami programmers called Gunstar Heroes, it proves to be probably the best probably the best action game on the Genie. Or if not, on the short list of best action games on the Genie, which says a lot because there are some really good action titles on the Sega Genesis. This title also, you're fighting off an alien invasion. There are giant robots, a little bit of everything that you'll expect from a Contra game. What you see is what you get with the Contra titles, and these two you see awesome, you get awesome. So there's not a whole lot of surprise there, but it's a lot of fun. Both titles are out in the wild. You should be able to find them pretty easy. And it's like I said in my Contra retrospective video earlier this year. If you're looking for a good Contra title, for better or for worse, all of them, with the exception of the titles on the PlayStation 1, are solid games. I recommend all of them. This has been 8-Bit Animal, and I will catch you beautiful people tomorrow.